So really like success, youthfulness, enlightenment, all good things, right? We'll just say the category of good, like every good thing that you might pursue, which includes all truth, any ability, any virtue, like anything that is in the direction of good, right? Like what does that depend on? Like healing, health, like becoming healthier, like, right? Like think of all the different ways that anybody's ever tried to improve themselves or improve their life. It's always in the direction of good, right? Even if it's even if somebody's like destroying something, right? They're destroying it to make way for something better. Like I don't know of anybody that doesn't even do destructive actions in that way. Like even the things that are evil, that are committed, are always done in the direction of good. Like the person that's doing it thinks that it would be better that way. Even if it's a nihilistic rampage of destruction and murder and chaos and death and transgression, it's there's a cynicism towards the world, that the world is so flawed that like this chaotic element would be better than the prison and the tyranny and regularity that's required for existence, or that's required for perception. Like the limit for existence to happen, right? Sometimes like perception and consciousness has to be limited so greatly for there to be any sort of creation whatsoever, that you could make an argument that limitation is not good. And so the destruction of creation, or the destruction of being, is the removal of limitation from consciousness. So it's like that's the motivation of evil, right? You can't really make an argument against it. Like the creation requires such limitation of consciousness that you could compare it to, and in fact you could say it is the suffering of Christ upon the cross. Like the most pure, the most wonderful, the most good thing is being fixed and nailed down into a specific thing, and that process is as traumatic upon consciousness as the cross was traumatic upon Christ. But but then you would say that is Christ's passion, right? So that's the difference between Christ and the devil in some way of like Christ is the good accepting evil, and then the devil would be to himself would seem like the good destroying evil. So it's also, if you want success at any of that, like be you good or be you evil, which is also working good in its own weird way. Right? It's like it's like, well, why have the limitation of gender? Why have the limitation of this? Why have the limitation of being alive or dead? Like it always kind of goes. That's the devil. That's what people recognize as the devil. Right? Like don't pay attention to that limitation, but and then that limitation removes all the limitations, and the event becomes, like obviously everybody knows it going in that the event is going to be destructive towards life, which is the limitation of consciousness. But it's the only thing that determines if that is successful or not. Your movement towards good or your movement towards evil is the intensity of the focus, because it's like, just, are you interested? And it's at this soul level that's like below the concept or the idea of the self. It's like way below it, and it's just like, are you engaged? And it's like people are either engaged or they're not. And it's like it's like the soul isn't a baby. The soul isn't an old person. The soul isn't a middle-aged person, but like in the soul is the choice to be engaged or not. And so people that are like very influential, I think, like teachers that are like helpful, they have an ability to engage the soul because they're talking from the soul. And when that happens, people see dramatic changes, right? Because when the soul changes its mind, like the whole thing, like a lot of things happen. But it's so simple that the instant that you use any sort of technique to encourage the soul, you're not addressing the soul. It's too simple for a technique. You just do it or not. It's just intended. And it's like, yeah, everybody can do it, and some people become professionals at intent. And the intent is similar to throwing a baseball, right? And so anybody can practice and get better at throwing a ball and hitting a target. How do you do it? Or having an idea and speaking it forth. How do you do it? It's just intent. But when you're really invested in it, that suddenly causes a shift to the silent witness of being, like shifting into the water, rather than being a surface phenomenon, or worse yet, a calculation of the surface phenomenon of like 2 waves plus 3 waves equals 5 waves. Where does the 5 waves exist? If there's just a set of 2, there's a set of 3, and you count 5. Where is the 5? It's in this. It's like super non-existence. It's not even something on the surface. It's 5. So you can be a surface level phenomenon, which is like that normal thing, and then that's already so two-dimensional thingness in comparison to the whole body. Like the whole body of water is completely invisible, unified one thing. It's so much greater than the surface of the water, right? But the surface is still at least the water. You can go from the surface to like an idea about the surface, a calculation, a deduction about the surface of like 100 plus 100 equals 200, and then all of a sudden you're not anywhere there. And just even counting it, 100 is already, there's 100 things there. That's not real. And what am I? 1 of a billion? It's like it's not even on the surface anymore. But then true interest drops into the bulk water, I'll call it, the invisible water, the substance of water. Is not a thing, has no thingness. It contains things, it supports things, it has a surface, but in terms of it, you can't really point to it while you're inside of it, because you're sticking your finger out, you're not pointing at it. And so the same thing happens linguistically, like when you're inside of consciousness, it's not an object, right? But it's all around because it's the listening. So the interest is shifting into that. That's where children are, like people are interested, things are interested, like consciousness is interested in life, especially at the very beginning of life. And then, yeah, of course, you slowly lose interest in life over time. And then when you totally lose interest, obviously you die, right? Like obviously when you lose interest in the thing, in the awareness, it goes away. So if you want to get healthier or whatever, all it is interest. Like, so it's an interest in your maniacal plot. It's an interest in your breath. It's an interest in your partner. It's just interest, like true interest. People call it love. Right, so people that are like really good at something or have worked during their life to get really good at something, they are in complete and utter infatuation or love with something. Unfortunately, for most artists, it's usually like blow, or some addiction to something is what drives a lot of creativity. Whatever it is love. Whatever keeps it interested. Because the interest is the submersion in life. Like when you love something, when you're interested in it, it saturates itself in the quietude, or in the listening, or in the love. And then it obviously then it tends to move towards those attributes of goodness that we would call, like, just whatever goodness is. The thing becomes more of that, and that's why a person would be successful or not.